it's not really a struggle for me, but for those those people who come from different organizations, not having experienced or not having have had hands-on experience with trying to use the Atlassian suite of tools like Jira, Confluence. Yeah, so they tend to have a hard time with it. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe a small introduction. I think Petra, we last met during a podcast that we did almost 2 weeks ago. It had to do with we're still looking at culture within an agile organization. Yeah, and that's where I met Petra. For your information, John, Winnie has already logged in, and it is at the call when we decided that why don't we? Because for me, this is something that I'm passionate about. By the way, it's not about. For me, it's not about the money for it, but more of growing a strong agile community. For me, that is it's just for me. It's just growing a strong agile community. For me, that is the main thing. And that's at the point where we talked. I tried to engage Petra to ask her whether she can become part of this experiment that I'm trying to run. And she agreed. And here we are today, the 4 of us. Yeah. So just a little introduction. My name is Job Otieno. I'm the Agile coach at APA Insurance. I also double up as a Scrum Master. We're trying, with the challenges, especially to do with culture, where an organization tries to carve out a transformation arm for the entire group, but only to be limited by, legacy. And whenever I talk legacy, I always talk about mindset as a legacy, as being one of the biggest challenge to getting that digital transformation dream realized. So for me, this forum is about trying to reach out to other like-minded professionals, trying to share ideas, also empower other people who are struggling with the same. Because sometimes you go to organizations and you think you're going to find agile, but in actual sense, it is not really agile. It's a mix of so many things. And I'll give you an example. There's an organization that the PO kind of reports to the project manager. So when you escalate issues to the PO takes it to the project manager takes it to some, some governance committee who then have to approve all those issues. So you can imagine that feedback loop, how it is. So it's not really agile out there. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing this. So maybe Petra, if you could say something, maybe the next 5 minutes we finish with the introduction, then we get to the meat of the matter.
Well, cool. Okay, so my name is Petra. Of course, we met, in the forum that you're talking. So, I'm an agile coach in Stricom. Work with Winnie and Johnny as well. But we're doing this in our individual capacities, not as Safaricom agile coaches. So I think for me also the interest is one. We when we came to this forum, first of all, I'm a very forward person. So when we came to the forum and there were questions, I felt, just if we're going to be here, let's be present. So hence I tended to talk a lot in your forum. But also the idea is, I think if we have had the advantage of being in a situation where we have a bit more formal agile that has allowed us to be able to practice, then it's sort of our responsibility to also give back. So that's where I'm at. And so if there's any way in which you can be able to give back, we hear you. And responding to your request to, can we work together and maybe get this information out here? So then I dragged along, of course, Johnny and Willie, who are also significant, they're significant giants in the industry as well, because they've been in practice within our own telecommunication industry as well as in the banking industry. So, they bring a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of, a wealth of practicality in how to be able to to move from, there's a lot of theoretical agile, but they bring a lot of practical ways to be able to move from we are claiming to be agile to actually being agile. So I hope we will be able to to live up to what we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
I think next journey can go.
Yeah. John?
Awesome. So equally on my side as well, I think it's something that
Giovanni?
I hold dearly to just to give back to the society, and even better still, the one thing that we can be able to do to help that the other companies that are new to this, for the challenges that we've been able to face, how can they be able to navigate that as well? So I don't think now that you already have something like the forefront test, who have the challenges of what another transformation entails. These other people who are still traditionally trying to introduce these concepts to their organizations, they don't really have to face the same challenges that we did. Because you're already equipped, you already have the experiences, you already have the learnings. Why not share those learnings and make their lives equally easier in the journey to transformation? So for me, I'm thinking probably that's the greatest gain and win. Probably just leveraging on our experiences to help others do even a better transformation job at this.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's it from my end.
Thanks, John. Winnie? Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, so Winnie, Petra has given our background already. So I happen to have worked with John longer than I have with Petra, but it almost feels like this, the same. Because as a coach, you go through the same problems. So it's you get unified by the fact that you have to deal with some things, and the bit is that if you solved it before, it's always good to share that information. I mean, why reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah, true.
So I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. I think Agile has been really quiet, so this is a breath of fresh air of somebody taking up the challenge to want to actually run and get guys together.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for that intro. So just in brief, so for this week, pardon my son, you might be shouting here and there.
You're working from home.
Yes.
Don't worry.
So we have a podcast schedule. I tend to call it podcast because we don't really do a lot of PowerPoint presentation, but we do more of this one-on-one discussion. And we touch on topics that are dear and particular to most teams. And through those discussions, you find that you tend to pour out knowledge that was lacking in certain practices, and people tend to pick them up very quickly. Now, one of the topics that I was sharing with Petra is how do you help POs? Because there's one thing I always say: there's a difference between getting a certification, getting certified as a Scrum Master, as a product owner, and actually applying the same lessons and knowledge in an actual working environment. So it's quite easy to be certified as a product owner, but do as well as a Scrum Master. But do we really understand the tenets of what goes into product development, from idea on a whiteboard to a go-to-market, for example, an MVP feature? So for us, I know this was going to be something you can't wrap in 1 hour, and we agreed Petra will do it in like 2 series. So for us here is to try and brainstorm and look at discussion points. So in your own environment, how do you deal or how do you help product owners, even Scrum Masters, when it comes to an idea that someone has just shot up, let's say an exec somewhere? So do we quickly just move to user stories and start developing or building and pushing code, or how do you go through those spaces to ensure that you've actually also defined the objectives, which I tend to put them in terms of OKRs, to ensure that the team is aligned, to ensure that everything that is required? Because sometimes people one thing I love about Scrum is that it never really prescribes how user stories come into a backlog, but this is for us to help teams. So how do we move from a product idea to where now teams are actually working on a product in a backlog, and we're actually pushing code out there? So how do you start out? How do you help product owners to shape that product in a way that coordinates with what the stakeholders want, with what the actual end users want, and also ensure that the team that are going to work in that product, who are interested in that product, have an idea of what they're doing.
Okay, cool. So I think in our own context, how it would work would be, so of course we start, how we move from idea to MVP would be, first we need to identify the opportunity. So this identification of the opportunity could be, like, for example, the way you said, it could be somebody makes a comment, like an executive who says, oh, we could do this, or maybe a problem that you're already experiencing, something that that has gone awry. Maybe we're trying to, I don't know, we have an existing product, or we have an existing issue that we are trying to address. So of course, we will then sit and use various methods to actually look at this opportunity really closely to be able to see, is it really an opportunity, or is it just a pet hobby that we're trying to look at? So we could do a little research here, observation, innovation, several methods that we could go about through the customer, and just being able to identify, is this a real problem? Is it just something that we are imagining is a problem? Then once we sit and we're able to validate that this is a problem, or we've been able to identify the gap, or we've been able to identify the opportunity that yes, this is actually an issue, through whatever methods we've used to be able to do the research. Then we are able to jump into what we would call the root cause analysis, which I think Johnny can talk to. So Johnny, do you want to talk through the root cause analysis?
Sure. So ideally, what we are doing by undertaking the RCA is ideally just trying to find out what is the underlying causative to this existing gap. Where does this gap, this opportunity, this probably innovation are still missing within the market? Yeah. So again, undertaking that, we can be able to leverage on various techniques.
Giovanni, I'll beat you.
So we have a whole array of them. So, but then there's also the sweet points that that our teams are largely get comfortable with. Take for example the web analysis, and again after it all, we're able not to come up with a sort of like an action that we need to undertake in order to attain a significant objective, which ideally has been identified and probably has been validated upon. So in a nutshell, that's the basics, or rather the underlying goal as to why we really emphasize on undertaking the root cause analysis as well.
So at
the end of the day, yes, sir.
Maybe my question is, at this particular stage, who do you actually involve? Do you involve the users or the stakeholders who are interested in this particular idea? And at what particular point do you decide that it's not a worthwhile undertaking or it's a worthwhile undertaking? And then how do you start to prioritize?
So ideally, whenever, let's say for example, a certain idea, a certain concept has come to birth, the very first thing that we get to do is just customer classification. Yeah. So we just get to think through. Okay, so this is an opportunity, but will be impacted by who's our target to this. Yeah? There's a whole lot of now identifying probably that segmentation. And better still, we still get to think through and know, okay, so if you have to take a step and probably chase this through, then we need these enablers who in our case will be the stakeholders, will help us to achieve this. So as that has been done, again, there's a whole lot of validation that we get to undertake. So that's what Petra mentioned regarding how you're able not to sort of like empathize with your customers, the target customers in the market. So through the various mechanisms that you can apply, think the user experience research, think advanced analytics, what your existing data tells you about your that target segment. And by the time you're coming out to sort of like a root cause analysis, you already have a sort of like an affirmed perspective towards the existing gap. So let's say, for example, you by trying to validate that particular idea that you had, that innovation that you thought is a good opportunity standing, and let's say the findings from the validation activity probably spoke to another term. Like, for example, it informed that, let's say, for example, you think it's a right opportunity, but now the feedback that you're getting from validation exercise is actually an issue. Yeah. So you course correct again, go back to the drawing board, rethink again, pick another item, and cycle.
So you seem to be talking about what I tend to call the scope and understand, where basically you want to understand the current baseline and try to maybe level it to like try to come up with a high level business case. I don't know that to call it a high level business case.
Not really. I think what we're trying to do basically here is just to come up with what is this significant objective that we're trying to address? Because ideas are exactly just that, isn't it? So just the way you said, somebody could come and say, oh, Job, we really need to build a car that can be able to fly, for example, isn't it? It's an idea in and of itself. It sounds like a good proposition, but the truth is, all of this developments or all of this bringing ideas into life normally involves a lot of resources, isn't it? So before you actually come in and waste your time, money, and all that, the idea is for us, you have to actually have validated and figured out what is this significant objective that I'm trying to achieve, right? And because more often than not, people, the ideas come from people saying, I've seen a certain symptom. So, for example, let me give an example of our own company. So, let's say M-Pesa, we look and see the revenues in M-Pesa are dipping, right? They are dipping significantly in Western. So, say, you need to do a campaign in Western. The truth is, we don't know what exactly is happening there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, the idea is to validate it and figure out what exactly. So, we're losing money, no problem. But the question is, what exactly is happening in that question? So once you've done all this, done your research, figured out, is it that we have is it that we are losing to the competitors? So once you've been able to figure out this is what the problem is, and this is the root cause, we're losing money because, I don't know, because we have put up a BTS that has killed 20 people, and so everybody doesn't trust in us anymore, isn't it? It doesn't mean that we need to come and build, I don't know, we don't need to change anything on our system. So we've realized the root cause is X, so that's what we solve for. So right now we're trying to, with the idea that we have, we're trying to validate it such that when we are sorting, we know what exactly we are sorting for. So this is not even, it doesn't go beyond here. It's just, as a team, we need to be sure what we're working with, isn't it? So once we've been able to do all the validation and all that, now we are sure, okay, so this is the problem. This is what we're trying to sort for, isn't it? This is the significant objective, isn't it? So then at this point, once we've been able to be clear on what it is that we want, then you need to talk us through the next part.
I was just going to add to what Peter has said. The other element of why you want to take the validation part route first is because if you take a business case and you're working in large corporates, if you give a business case without even doing a proof of concept, there will be somebody, because of old project management culture, that there'll be somebody who will be expecting this to come to fruition, and somebody who won't take a feel for this. They'll even tag a revenue number to it. So the best, sometimes it's better to just do a proof of concept first, so that you're able to factualize some things. This is our baseline. This is our target market. These guys were able to receive this. Then from there, you can actually do your projections and estimates from there. That's why sometimes it's easier taking the proof of, especially if you're in an innovation field where things are not quite clear. It's a white canvas. So you've been able to, Petra, we've been able to factualize what we want. We've validated our idea. Then we want to create our solution, and then we prototype that solution. Then we go and we do. Am I repeating what you said, Petra? I feel like I'm
no. By then,
we just cleared with the root cause analysis, and so now we're getting into. So we've figured out what the problem is, and now we are coming into how might we bring to life a significant objective that we've been able to identify, isn't it?
Okay, so so you can use various design thinking techniques. I'm sure, Job, you're familiar with them. How might we The other ones were which ones? Kwanzaa John is really good at these techniques. So,
actually, I was about to ask you the same question: that which techniques do you apply, or which
why?
approaches do you bring at this point, like design thinking? So, what kind of approaches do you bring into play at this particular stage?
Yeah. So you find that design thinking is very broad. In fact, that name these days scares me, because when people talk about design thinking, it could be anything. So some of the techniques that you'd find, because from the beginning we've already been doing design thinking, but from here now it's more bringing the stakeholders in the room, and then putting a problem there, and where you can bring your customers into the room, and you can use the why techniques, or how might we resolve this. Using things like scatter diagrams to try and map out where there's problems that they're voting for them, selecting the idea that we think is most palatable to the customer, where you can select more, even if it's 3 ideas, create some form of prototype, go and test it with your customers.
Wow. So maybe the other question is, how do you safeguard against biasness in your design? How do you ensure that you safeguard against biasness in your product design?
So that's difficult. It's innate to human practices. That is almost it's hard. So I believe if you have the right talent, especially in user experience, they try and bring in a mix up of stakeholders and explain why we are here today and why it's important to come with a blank canvas. And what is that? I'm forgetting the convergence and divergence. Yeah, where you ask the customer, where you take the stakeholder to them, give me as much as you can. They give you all the ideas, even out of the moon ideas. Like we are building a flying car. Let's build the Fast and Furious one that goes all the way to the out of universe kind of place. So you bring all the ideas. Then how do you narrow it down? You then now converge. People vote on the wild ideas. So sometimes the wild card is the one that goes through because nobody was thinking about it. And also just making sure your audience is stable. You bring in young, varied generation, people from all the stakeholders, people who talk to the customer, people who have interest in financial numbers, and bring them into the room. Experience with this, you tend to get like some very well ideas. I'll tell you, there's the time, in fact, this was John who facilitated. He facilitated a design thinking session, and it was about our CAD platform in INDEM. And guys were thinking we need to overhaul this whole CAD platform. By the time we were done with the design thinking session, the only thing that you guys actually figured out is customers just want to know what their balance is and their statement is at any particular point on their credit card. So if you're able to solve that one little element, we solve a huge need that brings a lot of demand to our core set. And so I think looking at it,
and I think that whole idea brings about the discussion on how then do we, because how do you shape up you've talked about the minimum significant feature that you're actually trying to shape up, and ensure that you actually focus on those to the minimum significant feature, because sometimes the temptation from a number of stakeholders, and you may agree with me, people have different interests, and we find that everyone depends on who has the highest voice, or who can shout the loudest in the room, or who has most.
What is that power. Name? The loudest words. There's a nice name we usually use.
Then they just want to, you know very well from your design thinking sessions, from your focus group sessions, that what this guy wants is not what the customer wants, but they keep insisting that the idea needs to go through. So I don't know, how do you handle that?
You give everybody one sticky, and you give them one vote, and out of them, unless he's able to politically sway them in that room, and they vote. So you put a blank canvas, everybody puts up their notes, and you can even segregate guys and no guys, but they were not talking about this. Read through what the content is as a facilitator, and then ask guys vote. And the one that votes, it goes through. Kiko, you want to talk about this?
Prioritization vote.
Yeah, you get guys to, so that way it's not the loudest person in the room, it's more of the sentiments of the group that run at the end of the day. But it really takes takes a product owner who has, pardon my French, balls of steel to tell guys, how we're going.
Yeah, Kigo, tell us more about this.
So I think Queenie has largely touched on everything. So really, so you ask how do you ensure, or rather how do you manage, let's say for example, the highly influential stakeholders from taking the day. So again, remember when you're coming to this, there was a bit, probably just to outline the rules of play, and everyone within this setting already holds an equal voice. Yeah. So again, remember, it's a mindset thingy, and even prior to having your session, you've already prepared your stakeholders, your attendees psychologically, and they know, regardless of my level at the client, at the entity, I equally value the contribution that associate developer is going to contribute to. Yeah. So again, it becomes sort of like a session with no hierarchies. So that's very important for you not to have sort of like those biases that are swayed by power. Yeah. Again, there's something. Yes, Petra.
Sorry, maybe sorry to interrupt you, John, but also, Job, this also feeds into your conversational culture, because I think you find that as we are doing that, we're also bringing up a culture where everybody feels psychologically safe to be able to, to come up with whatever ideas that they have. And I know at first it might be a struggle, especially if you're moving from, how our companies normally operate traditionally, where I'm the boss, I say, and you make the idea, even if it's costing us a fortune and it's complete rubbish. You see, that's where now courageous conversations come in, isn't it? Where we're saying, okay, so we're coming in, these are the ideas, and everybody has one vote, and that's that.
Yeah, and
that's it.
And it's quite interesting if you look at most of organizations that are starting off. The traditional mindset is very strong, where the stakeholders, those stakeholders who expect that, okay, you get a business analyst, let them go out there, document, and I still wonder how this is still working up to date. You get a business analyst, go out there, document as much as possible, think about everything that you can think of in this world, then bring me a document to sign off. And when moving from such a culture, and trying to convince the stakeholders that we need you to be active participants in this process. Because an example of experience we had in my own organization, so we want to develop a certain functionality or capability for claims assessment, but there's very little to zero interest from the actual stakeholders. These are organizations that have been started by family members, and sometimes even you being the head of claims, your voice isn't that much heard. So how then do you convince these people that you need to be in this room? It's not about the UX guy, it's not about the DevOps guy to think for you the process, to think through the process for you and try to give you like a solution, like an out-of-the-box solution, but for you to understand that this is what your users need, and your voice is actually very important in this process. How do you help such kind of mindset?
I think Petra is going to say something. But Petra, before you say something, there's something I want John to actually talk about. John, when we were talking about, John actually facilitated sessions in I&M with senior management that made them understand a lot of things. So, John, maybe you can speak to those, because that's exactly what that is what triggered people coming down with their suits and ties to sessions to look at what's happening.
Wow, thanks, Winnie. So ideally, the whole goal regarding those sessions. So ideally, okay. So the approach that we were taking towards our agile transformation journey was a little bit different. It was the T-structured approach. Winnie, you remember the T? Okay. So we were looking first of all at who are these influential key figures within the entity who must first appreciate the mindset that we are trying to drive. So once they're able to undertake or to appreciate and even be themselves getting onboarded on this other side of the shift, then it will be an easier run. Probably even coming to their department, the department that they had, and again advocating for the same change. So the very first concept that you need to sort of like approach, or rather you need to face, and you need to do it courageously, is that one. So the mindset bit is what now you. So for all the sessions that we used to hold with our Manco, the executive, everything was purposely driven towards attaining that goal. So only when did we attain that, did we then take the next step now, going directly now to their department and now cascading the same analogy? So probably just borrowing to what you have put across. A business analyst have been sent to the field, collect and gather requirements, and then they come back and probably cascade or rather hand over the same requirements to the devs to do the implementation bit on. The question that then raises is, who will own the output of that work?
Mhm.
So no one. Why? We can't we can't tie down that requirement or rather that source of those requirements to a certain customer. Yeah. So these are so it as well as just building a solution that we intended to use we ourselves. So and again and again I think it comes back to probably a customer obsession, like having your customers at the center of everything that you're chasing. I don't know if you've done justice to your
Giovanni,
your question there.
stop it.
Petra,
Yes.
I'm thinking, I know Petra is the one safe agilist here we have. So does the sequence within safe kind of like almost make our stakeholders come into
Giovanni,
the room
please
with us
go to the bedroom.
in a way, in a nice way?
Yeah, you see, the thing about
Giovanni, keep
safety
quiet.
is after, at the point at which we're doing any of our plannings or any of our, of our engagements for our stakeholders, everybody comes in, like the conversations are being had with everybody at that point. So really, it removes the element of subjectivity, first of all. Secondly, it allows for everybody to have an equal voice. It's so much easier in safe, if you ask me, because you've got a period of time where you come in with whatever you have agreed upon. As a business unit, you sit, talk about whatever it is that you've agreed upon, and of course you're working towards one significant objective, depending on what it is you're trying to do. And as the teams come in and you're deciding what is of priority, everybody gets to just have their say, and we don't have anybody there's no hierarchical relationship. So really, I think it's so much easier and safe because it's a bit more inflexible than Scrum, so to speak. So it forces people to act in a certain way where planning is really, really defined, and everybody gets just one chance to be able to talk about what needs to happen. So I think for me, in safe, that inflexibility, while removing that autonomy to a large extent, removes a lot of these questions of interpretation, if you ask me.
Yeah. And also, this job, the first question then I'll ask myself if I'm unable to bring in the stakeholders, am I really solving for a need?
Yeah.
Because, it's sometimes this work is also stakeholder management. So it's a trade-off. And it's a reality. Utopia would be that we just go and we solve exactly what the customer needs, but sometimes are we solving what the organization needs? I think sometimes when you meet a sweet spot for the organization, these are the things that you do might not necessarily matter, yet they're solving customer needs. So trying to find out what exactly does the organization view as a problem, and then from there try and solve for that problem. That gives you the kind of right attention that you need, so that it gives you a voice a platform to work from. Sometimes the danger of being in Agile is that when we're set up, we don't look at that first. We go and we look for the things that are outside, and yes, we're solving for a customer, but internally there might be an actual need. So looking first introspectively, what can we solve that is a big bang and a quick win for the organization? To give us a platform and a ledge to work from. Yeah. So then from there, it's easier. It's an easier conversation. It's harder when you try and solve for something that will bring in money. That's the honest truth. Bring in revenue, will bring in good GPS and things like that. So the next time when your team says they want to go and do something that people are like, that will fail, you can base it off of something that has actually been successful.
Thank you, Bob. I think as you're thinking, when you say that as you're having a really hard time pulling in a stakeholder to, to rally behind you, you probably need to go back and ask yourself, this, whatever it is that I'm trying to address, in as much as it's addressing a significant objective, what is the real pain point that this person is facing? Because let me give an example. If today I am Petra, I'm the chief of M-Pesa, for example, right? And I'm hemorrhaging money. If I'm losing revenue, and that's my biggest problem, so it means the most valuable thing that anybody can bring to me is a solution that's going to sort out my money problem, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to sort out my revenue problem.
Mm.
And if you come to me and tell me, Petra, forget about revenue for a second. I have a solution that's going to help you sort out, the complaints that you've been having from your agents, for example. It's a wonderful solution, and it'll probably reduce demand to call center and whatever. But I think buy-in is mostly gotten when, if you work with the stakeholders to be able to identify what is of most value, first of all, to them, we address that. Then you see, once that has been addressed, then there is room for even the stakeholders to be able to have bought in and thinking, okay, so we've been able to sort this out. Maybe we need to give an ear to this team to actually see what is it that we can be able to do with them next. That buy-in is gotten by giving and taking. I think that collaboration of giving and taking is my opinion. And practically speaking, sometimes that's what we have had to do. Like you come in and you're thinking, this is what I'm trying to sort, but you sit down and they say, no. The most important thing to me right now is this. So we sort for this, and because of that, we're then able to move slowly to whatever else it is that we're trying to put. So the claims thing is important. The question is, what is it that is the most pain to them? Like as a team, if that's what you're supposed to be facilitating, what is the thing that is of most, like what is causing them the most discomfort for you to sort? Then now we can say, okay, look, besides what we have sorted, can we also have a look at the claims, this claims vertical, and this is the possibility, because then now you already have their ear, But it's just, to be honest, there's really no straight route to it, if you ask me. But it's this and that, trying to get, just managing your stakeholders in a way that you're giving to be able to get, because if they view that as the most valuable, then you need to be able to deliver that to be able to get what you're trying to peddle to them, so to speak.
Wow, that was quite insightful, man. So no, I'm just thinking about I'm just thinking. So now we have all this. So you have your proof of concept out. So then how do you move from the proof of concept and go to the next stage? So you've already convinced your stakeholders. You've already aligned on what is most important to the organization and what will align with the vision and maybe the strategy of the organization. So then now you have your proof of concept and like you've hit the spot. So then how do you move now from the proof of concept to build something much of value, not only to the organization but also to the users?
Okay, so maybe if we just went back, just slightly back, So we said at this point we have been able to see it, we have discovered this is what our significant objective is. We've already looked at it, and at this point we have even done some prototypes just to prove what we have put down, isn't it? This is what we're trying to sort for. Okay, good, right? So clearly at this point, then we will move to what we are going to be calling user story mapping, isn't it? So where we're saying this is I'm trying to achieve X, which is a significant objective, but normally that's quite high level, isn't it? I'm saying I'm trying to achieve thing X, and we sit down with all the stakeholders who you've been able to identify, the people who will be instrumental in getting you to achieve what you need to achieve, and then you map it out specifically. So to be able to achieve this, what exactly does this look like? So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To achieve X, you need to be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever that is. So a high level list of all the features or all the things that need to happen for you to achieve your significant objective. Then of course break them down into details, and then by doing so also be able to break this down into an MVP and say, at least if we're able to do this particular set of features or this particular set of features that we have been able to identify, then we can be able to go out with the MVP, isn't it? Then beyond that MVP, we can be able to have these others are good to have, this one, it's neither here nor there. So once you've been able to map all this out, then at this point, of course, you need to then now sit with your team. Of course, you'll be able to have your roadmap because now you have a prioritized backlog, so to speak, isn't it? Because all of these features that are in your MVP and the details of your your backbone that you've already been able to create is what you will be able to put up as your user stories, and then map them and be able to work on them, so to speak. So you at least have somewhere to start, right?
Yeah.
Now you have a roadmap, map them onto your tool, whatever tool you'll be using, and then now start from there, isn't it? So you see, as a Scrum Master at this point, you are able to find you are given an idea of what you want to do. You've been able to validate it. You've been able to see, okay, so what is the root cause analysis? What is the root cause of all of this? You've been able to find that. Been able to even do mini prototypes to see, is this, this is what we're trying to achieve over here. Then now we've come and said, okay, fine, so let's use a story map. We break down all the requirements. We're clear on what the MVP is. Now you have a place to be able to start working from, isn't it? From there, you've been able to start working. So then, of course, from there, basically after that, it's just for you to be able to build the MVP. Once you've been able to build whatever MVP you have, assuming you have the resources, then from there, it is just simply for you to either to go for a pilot of the same, take it out to market, pilot, get your feedback, adjust it how it needs to be adjusted, and then from there, scale it. So it's not as linear as we are saying it, but that's the general idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's generally the idea of how to get from idea to MVP, in as far as we can tell.
Yeah. So maybe my question will go back to the people aspect. So looking at your position as the coach, so you're working with several squads, tribes, and you find that your work is really cut out, and you really run a tight ship. So at this particular point, you're working with product owners, scrum masters, maybe user experience experts, who maybe have different level of knowledge and experiences and exposure to product development. Because like we always say, most people come from the traditional way of project management to now product development, which is a huge difference. So how do you ensure that and empower the product owners and the scrum masters to actually run a well-coordinated ship and ensure that there are no conflicting interests? Because sometimes I've seen where product owners clash with scrum masters. Sometimes it's more of a question of who has more authority or power in the team. Again, when you think about Scrum, there's nothing like hierarchy or authority. It's more of the team. But then how do you deal with such interests within the team to ensure that everything is running smoothly?
Well, you make sure the Scrum Master is not reporting to the product owner under no circumstances, because that is a healthy fight to have. But that's on a lighter note. But that's the reality. It happens. But if we have our product mission set right, if we have our MVP set right, the only thing maybe that then we can be arguing about between me and you as a Scrum Master is the capacity to work through it and creating that healthy boundary where the product owner doesn't go and dedicate things that are not realistic, but I feel like that's all a part of forming and norming. At a certain point, the team kind of like morphs together, so you can even find the product owner is almost able to even guesstimate what they're going to estimate the work is at and how much they will pick, and from there you work with them. But that's normal, that's healthy. But creating those healthy boundaries and explaining instead of being in conflict, explaining why this is not a realistic question, but I
think also, in addition to what Vinny is saying, there is also the need to clearly identify. In as much as it's a flat structure, you also need to clearly identify what everybody's role is in this particular arrangement, isn't it? Because when we are clear that the Agile coach / Scrum Master's role is to work with the team, their main agenda is to be able to ensure that the team is maturing with regards to their Agile practices and their ability to be able to get work done in a certain way. Then you see the conflict becomes very limited, because if we are clear that the product owner is responsible for the what, right? Is responsible for the what of the squad, and the Agile coach / Scrum Master is responsible for the Agile maturity of the team. And in our context, we have chapter leads who are responsible for the craft, which is the how, then more often than not, it reduces that level of conflict, isn't it? Because if we have open conversations where we know the product owner is helping us do the prioritization, the chapter lead is helping us ensure that the people are actually up to par in being able to do the work, having the skill set to be able to deliver, and the agile coach is clearly the person who is looking at the ways of working. Are we being able to, plan adequately? Are we being able to prioritize adequately? Are we being able to do, just our general agile ways of working activities properly? Then the chances of us getting to a place where we are clashing to the extent that, there's, tug of wars for power will be very limited, if you ask me. So long as there's clarity of what role everybody plays, then it reduces it, because everybody has a healthy, clear understanding. And then now, ideally, the environment becomes much more safe for people to have open conversations. Even if I'm questioning you and say, Job, I feel you could do this differently. However, it becomes an easier conversation if you ask me, or in my experience anyway.
Kigoto did say something.
So just probably just to add to what Petra and Winnie has put across. So just thinking of it with an open mind, then it comes back to the basics of the coaching work that you undertake regarding just that agile mindset shift. So when you're talking about when you're talking about an empowered team, when you're talking about collective ownership, teamwork, thinking about areas regarding continuous learning, failure acceptance, what do you really mean? What does it really mean for a team? So I think a lot of energy then to sort of like prevent this from occurring has to be focused or rather directed towards coaching the team regarding attaining that open mindset. Once that is done, then the conflict, I think, by thinking, even if the conflict arises, then at least it will be at a minimal.
Wow. No, quite an interesting. I mean, this conversation can go on and on and on and on. Wow, but maybe let me just talk a little bit still on the team mobilization. Sometimes you find, I don't know how you handle it. You may be short of resources, so you may have different squads, and some of the skills you need are already available in other squads. And sometimes there's that tug of war of not really tug of war, but trying to find us. I won't even call it a soft spot, because you know that for me to deliver this particular value, I need resource A, B, C, D, and E. But somehow you're short on some of those skills and capabilities, and they already exist in other squads. Now, here comes the problem where HR is not working as fast as possible as you'd like them to work in terms of recruitment. And also maybe there's the problem of management being strict on budget, saying, okay, I'll give you an example of where I am, where management will always say, okay, we have X number of people in the factory. I expect there are 8 hours in the day, and I expect each person to be doing X amount of hours or man hours in delivery. And I don't even expect, if you have, let's look at best practice, that when you allocate a resource to a particular squad, they won't understand that, oh, I need to have this resource here throughout, because I don't want him suffering from context switching, having to focus on another sprint goal for a different squad. I mean, they don't get that dynamic. So how do you then manage such conflicts and still ensure that you're aligned to, your MVP goal?
This one might, unless we give you theoretical answers, it's a reality.
It's a truth. It's a reality.
True. It's a reality, yeah.
It's a managing stakeholders and Kigoto, do you have any classes for this? For me, it's more.
So probably a short to it, yeah. So first, you have to ensure that you're measuring the right thing. That's for number one. So think of it this way. Me from a HR perspective, I want to see the hours clocked, yeah. But then to Winnie, who is an agile coach, and to Petra, who is probably the product owner, for them, they're looking at the value that the team is going to deliver in terms of the impact when it comes now to the customer experience. Yeah. So again, how do you ensure that our people resources custodians get to understand that gist. Now, secondly, let's say, for example, the analogy that you put across comes into play, whereby the HR is not working as fast as as they should, and probably we have a resource deficit, probably resulting to a strained squad when it comes now to the amount of work that they expected to uptake. So probably something that probably we can lend you a practice that we are doing. So we normally have constant POC sessions, and the whole point for these POC sessions is just to try always at every instance. Just focus and see probably in the future, probably 6 weeks to come. This is the amount of work that we have. This is our roadmap. This is our release plan. And when we come, let's say for example, this to probably implementing this iteration, this is a skill set, or rather the amount of resources that you're going to be needing. Yeah. So then on this other side, let's say for example, we have next code, and one code would be requiring those resources. Then we always have that bit of interlending between codes. Yeah. So where you surrender a resource for that particular iteration in order for them to serve a purpose in a strained code. So there's also that bit. So I don't know if it's something, but it's something. Yes, I know we are trying in the early stages, but something that has been working wonders for us, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know in theory, theory and practice are two different things. But as John is saying, we are really trying. We are lucky to have also quite a what I'd call quote unquote a huge workforce, which allows us to be able to do that. If you have a smaller workforce, you're on your own basically. Because for us, if we I'll give an example. If you have a tribe that has got maybe 6 or 7 or 8 squads, then you see when you're having your POCs, you can actually have those conversations that can then translate to, okay, so I need a backend developer who can, I just need to work with them for 2 weeks. And somebody might actually have someone who they can be able to spare, not because they don't have work, but they can be able to spare to allow you, because again, you're working towards a similar significant objective. So, it can be balanced out internally by being able to look at your capacity needs and being able to balance them out. But if we were to be completely vulnerable, the truth is it's really like riding a water bicycle. Sometimes it works, sometimes you're falling off and you're in the water. So there's really no hard and fast rule for it. But the idea is to try and have those capacity conversations and balance them as you keep going here. Okay. I don't know how you do it for teams that don't have so many squads. I'm not sure. Maybe you can school us on that, because I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. So for us, I think it's been sometimes it becomes a struggle, and we try as much as possible to highlight the shortfall, because obviously, for example, if you lose, let's say, maybe 2 to 3 or 4 people over a period of 6 months, and that's a hole, and there's no plugging to stop the leak. So that means that the different squads are shrinking, and now business needs will never stop, right? So for us, has been it's been hard lessons learned, where sometimes to try and communicate the same to stakeholders is to, sometimes there are those deliverables that suffer. For example, they may lag behind, and sometimes a POC that was already on its way, had already kicked off, and sometimes has to grind to a halt because we don't have enough resource. And at that particular point, we tend to communicate to even to stakeholders. I'm telling them, even it's not. There are things to tell them, but no, our work doesn't just stop at the development. We also need to have a way of monitoring the product once it goes to production. And we need to have enough resources, because sometimes you find that you have production incidents, and some of the team squad members have to literally stop what they're doing and now more of swarm around the production incident. And maybe for the next 1 day or 2 days, then work has stopped, which again suffers at the sprint. But like you said, these are hard nuts. It's a very hard nut to crack. I've tried to crack it, but sometimes it's a difficult one, especially when you're trying to, because at the end of the day, I think it's about culture, trying to educate and school the organization onto the agile mindset kind of culture. Yeah. So, oh Lord, it's almost 2 minutes to 7. So I don't know. I don't know. We can just limit the conversation to this. Then maybe on the next one we can start talking. We can talk about how then do you prepare for market, because one of the challenges I've seen in even where I am is go to market, because we find that we've been doing things. We've been running focus groups. We're testing with focus groups. We are almost at the tail end. We're about to go to production. Then marketing, then communication department are caught flat-footed. And that also brings about the question, how then do you bring about the members of marketing, communication back into your squads, into your tribes, to be part of that delivery, to ensure that they have a heads up and start understanding what you're trying to shape up, that when that time comes, they're actually ready to actually take that product to the market and have a more robust feedback loop to allow the product to shape up into the future.
I think, I don't know if we pack that for tomorrow, but I think for me also, I'm lucky enough to be working with a squad that is actually a go-to-market squad, so to speak, because how it works for us is we work with the teams from inception, isn't it? So from ideation, we're working with the team. So we have, within our teams, we'll have the performance marketing, will have CBM persons, we'll have the brand marketing persons. So all these people sit, and as the teams are ideating and coming up with their canvases and saying, this is what we're trying to achieve. We want to have, a promo on X. We're trying to do this and that and the other. This team is actually taking note and picking up all the requests with regards to now starting to form either campaigns around them or forming, ideas on how to be able to do the kickoff and all of that at that point. So what happens is that by the time we are following development as well, isn't it? Following development, ensuring that we are actually getting a firm grip on who the target market is and all the other nitty-gritties. So by the time we are ready to go to market, all the budgets have been, at this time we're also securing budgets, ensuring that we have all the, whatever preparations need to be done on ground to be able to get it to market are happening concurrently. So by the time deployment is happening, the team is ready to be able to support you to get to market. And we also have the advantage of having, regional representation, which means that go to market for our teams and for our products is pretty easy because we work with them from inception till the end, So have we cracked it completely? Of course, not necessarily. There's some mishaps here and there, but I find that it's most productive when we are, we are talking as you are, as you're doing development, then the go-to-market is also asking questions. So, from the feedback they have on the ground, they're like, okay, so this is for this target market. Okay, they keep giving the feedback so that also whatever they're preparing to be able to support this, all the TVCs, all the videos, all the whatever it is that they need to be able to support is happening concurrently. And it really helps because you see, you do very targeted go-to-market because you understand the product end to end. You understand who your target market is. You understand who your base is for the campaigns and everything. So we've been quite successful with go-to-market, not 100%. I'd call it a strong 67%, but we're getting there. So working with them from inception up until end allows you to be able to do that. Bring them in early.
Yeah.
Though I know the marketing guys are an interesting bunch to be bringing into such conversations, but because we've been confined with being the go-to-market for this particular tribe, then what happens is that we, this is our scope of work. So I don't know how you address that when you don't have, a team, unless you pull them into your own teams. That's the other idea. Pull them into your, like your plannings and your 6-week plannings and your reviews and all that as stakeholders.
Yeah.
Then that conversation starts then from when you
So,
when you wanted to.
I think the power of negotiation and the power of stakeholder management at the end of the day. You see, everything in Agile gives you a point at which where you're able to showcase in retrospect. So always making sure that these guys are not ignored as stakeholders. When you're mapping out your stakeholders, if you have the luxury of where you have actually teams who are in this category, like in CVM, as Petra is saying, and they're sitting in your tribe, or you're sitting in your release train, or in your squad, or in whatever it is, that's fantastic. But there's some elements I saw like that works very well in Safaricom. When I was in the bank, we had a commercializing agent sitting with this department that kicked off the Agile. So this guy would look at from Google to search engine optimization, the things that he's able to do from a desk point of view, but the things that we needed to scale up, because you don't produce products in a void, especially when you're in a corporate, from branding colors to all those, to even, I remember he corrected us grammatically on a sentence that we had put even on the website. It might look like something small, but he was able to catch it. So bringing these people into your reviews so that they're able to come. One thing that I have noticed is that when you involve the marketing team, their culture is they want to know a lot of things. Chances are they will come. So telling them that we are expecting to go to market with this in this number of days and we will need your support. Ensuring your product owner is on top of things, because this is the place where you really leverage on your product owner, coaching them to start looking out for these gaps in advance. So that by the time we are reaching there, because you can be able to forecast in 6 weeks, this is where we want to be. You can start booking this facility. Sometimes we fault departments for not accommodating us, but the reality is that sometimes we come expecting things to happen in an agile manner, while not everybody is working in an agile manner. So being cognizant of the environment, bringing these guys into the conversation earlier on so that we can plan together.
Wow. I don't want to take beyond 7 o'clock. It's already 7:04. I don't know if I take much of your time, but that was quite insightful. So Petra, I don't know. The goal was to have a more community conversation. So that's why we were to have several sessions, see how to compact it. So I don't know. We have another session tomorrow. So do you want us to have it invite people to the call, or how do you want to go about it? Because trying to see again to repeat the same again next week will be more daunting on all of you. And some of these things they tend to pour out, as you talk.
I don't know, what was your expectation? Because from what you told me, the 2 sessions that we're having now was just conversation for us in preparation to doing the podcast. But if you want to pick what, I think again, Winnie, John need to chime in and indicate their comfort level. I don't know what it is that you're hoping. Maybe you guide us. What is it that you're hoping? Our options are either we have the conversation tomorrow, or
so just to answer you,
we're having a conversation tomorrow. Have we prepared our audience to join tomorrow?
No.
That's the question I have.
So thanks for that. So I think let's keep it for next week, Friday. So we'll just again meet tomorrow to align our ideas. So I have this. I have this guy. He does the artwork to help prepare the audience. So maybe if you can send me a snapshot of yourself, it could be like a portrait. Then I'll talk to him to try and put up an artwork so that we start building a conversation or a narrative towards next week, Friday. So maybe tomorrow. So I'd booked twice a week, Tuesday and yesterday we weren't able to. So tomorrow again to allow us to again shape up the whole conversation so that Friday it becomes much easier. But to start preparing the audience for that, just kindly maybe by tomorrow send me your snapshots so that I get the guy to do the artwork. Then I can share it also with the artwork with you. Once it normally takes a very quick short time, like about 30 minutes, and it's done. Then I can share it with you, all of you, and you can socialize it on your networks in preparation for Friday.
I think I can actually share, if it's snapshots, we can even share them almost immediately.
Petrus, you have all of ours?
Yeah, I have.
Lakini ile Johnny inaka mug shot.
John, I'm sure it's really Johnny. You have just been. Hate speech has been detected.
I'm just saying.
Hate speech has been detected. So I can share with you the snapshots almost immediately. Then you guys can work on them and then share them back, and then you guide the conversation. So tomorrow you're hoping we'll just finish having our own preliminary conversation,
Yes,
and then now in preparation for that.
Yeah.
Is
So
that what you think?
Yeah, correct. Spot on.
This is the nature of the conversation. It's more of a conversation. It's not, we don't need to come with a beautiful PowerPoint or mural.
No. No, I don't know what to think, but for me, from the word go, this is how I wanted it to run. Like, let it be a conversation pointer, because when you points tend to flow out of your mind, and you tend to connect more with the audience, and you tend to speak from experience rather than have to think of it in advance and prepare for it.
Right.
Right.
So
I think that's acceptable to me, Joe.
Okay.
I'm game. All good.
Okay, really?
Yeah, this works for me 100%.
Okay, cool.
I can't thank you enough, Petra.
Just that photo for Kigozo.
Sa unataka ikaje? Hebu niambie.
Hebu tuchukue sio mugshot tafadhali.
Man, I can't thank you enough, Petra, for putting this together.
Joe.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That's, I think we're working towards the same kind of arrangement. So
yeah,
I mean, where we can help, we help.
Yeah.
Right? Where we build each other. We are learning from you. You're learning from us.
Yeah.
That's basically the spirit. Isn't
it? True.
Okay.
And for me, I can't have all these resources with me, so I have to go out into the community and look for them, because I can't. I think that's the biggest challenge again for other organizations getting into Agile. You don't have people who have actually gone through that experience within your own organization. You can bring in a consultant, but you need people in the same marketplace who have gone through the same thing and have maybe understand your culture of the environment or the area, which why this actually works for me very well.
Very true. I think it's our responsibility to try and make this more vibrant, isn't it?
Yeah. True.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Petra. Thank you.